stand before you tonight as the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate.
And together, we are going to make voices heard for you again in Washington and Tallahassee.
Now at 11, the votes have been counted, the races have been called, and the clash of the Florida governors, one past, one present, begins. Tonight's primary results mean now Congressman Charlie Crist will be the Democrat to take on incumbent Governor Ron DeSantis in November. Crist tonight defeated Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried by a wide margin, who hoped to become the state's first female governor. Welcome to WPBF 25 News Primary Night Coverage. I'm Todd McDermott.
And I'm Felicia Rodriguez. The results are in and voters decided. For months now, candidates have been crisscrossing the state and making their pitch to you, the voters. Tonight we have a team at the Crist Election Night headquarters in St. Pete, one with the Fried campaign in Fort Lauderdale. We also have crews standing by, ready to share election results and other key local and state races. Along with our exclusive analysts prepared to offer you perspective on this high-stakes night. We're going to begin with Terry Parker with reaction from Crist on tonight's primary victory. Terry?
Charlie Crist, the winner tonight in the Democratic primary in the race for governor, handily defeating his opponent, Agricultural Commissioner Nikki Fried, early on in the night. Cheered on here by a high-energy crowd of his supporters in his home congressional district of St. Petersburg. Charlie Crist is the leader early on as results rolling in. In the almost final tally tonight, Crist scooped up 60% of the vote, with Fried trailing with 35%. And in our coverage area, Crist beat Fried by a landslide in each of our 5 counties. The clear winner from Palm Beach County to the Treasure Coast in Okeechobee. Crist did give a nod to Fried here tonight, saying she'd fought the good fight against Ron DeSantis, saying they are both committed in their goal to beat the Republican governor in November.
Make no mistake about it, because this guy wants to be president of the United States of America, and everybody knows it. However, when we defeat him on November 8th, that show is over.
Crist saying if he wins, he will restore rights he claims DeSantis has eroded while in the governor's mansion. And one of the first things Crist says tonight that he will do if elected is to restore, he says, signing an executive order protecting a woman's right to choose. Tomorrow morning, he plans to be up bright and early at a local diner here in St. Pete, talking to supporters and starting his march, he hopes, to the governor's mansion. Live in St. Petersburg, I'm Terry Parker, WPBF 25 News.
Terry, thank you. And on the other side of the state, here, Nikki Fried was giving her concession speech. Reporter Angela Rozier live in Fort Lauderdale with more on the end of the Fried campaign for governor. Angela?
That's right. It was a disappointing night for Nikki Fried and her supporters. Some in tears as she took to the stage tonight here at her election party in Fort Lauderdale. But she wasted no time going around the room, making her rounds, thanking her supporters, thanking her guests, and those who were with her on her journey to the governor's mansion. She says although the night did not go the way they had hoped it would, she knows tonight is the start of a new chapter. At one point, she told the people in the crowd nobody ever broke a glass ceiling on the first pitch, and was asked if Charlie Crist would ask her to be his running mate, would she accept?
Oh my God, it's so premature for that right now. I mean, look, I have said I am in this fight to make sure that Ron DeSantis is a one-term governor. If at some point that we feel that me being on the lieutenant governor ticket is our best shot, I will do everything in my power to make sure that Ron DeSantis is defeated in November.
Now, Fried says the people she met on the campaign trail, she gave them hope and inspiration and gave little girls that she met something to look up to, something to look forward to. Again, she wanted to make history by becoming the first female governor here in the state of Florida. She says her fight will continue. Reporting live in Fort Lauderdale, Angela Rozier, WPBF 25 News.
And thank you. 11 o'clock on primary night, looking ahead to November now. We want to break down what will surely be a very closely watched race for governor here in Florida and all over the country, all part of our commitment to you, our viewers. Let me bring in our WPBF 25 exclusive political analysts, former Congressman Ron Klein, former Florida House Majority Leader Adam Hassner. Adam, I'll start with you. Why is former Governor Charlie Crist, who more recently lost 2 statewide races, the choice for Democrats tonight?
Yeah, it still is shocking to me that someone who's been a Republican almost his entire life has won the Democratic primary so resoundingly. But I think it's because Nikki Fried just ran a really poor campaign. She never really caught fire. She never really made a case with Democratic voters. It was always anti-Ron DeSantis, and you heard that just a minute ago. And I just don't think that resonates well. People want to know, what are you going to do to make Florida better? And she just never made that case, and that's why Charlie Crist was able to win so big tonight.
All right, Ron, what strengths does Chris bring to this campaign against a very well-funded incumbent who's amassed strong support among his base of Republican voters?
I think Charlie Crist is someone who people believe is a kind person. He has served as governor. He served in Congress most recently as a Democrat, of course. I think he can pull from both sides, Democrat, Republican, and independent. It's not going to be easy to beat Ron DeSantis. He has a huge amount of money, but money's not the key here. The key is there is a very partisan orientation toward Ron DeSantis and a very, very hard right. Florida's a middle-of-the-road state, and people want to govern from the middle. That's what Charlie Crist offers.
All right, that number again, reportedly now $140 million, that campaign war chest for the governor. Adam, what role will these cultural issues that have come up in the last year, abortion, teaching about racism and gender identity in schools, the governor's professed anti-woke agenda, what role do they play in this general election?
Well, I think the Democrats are certainly going to want to make abortion an issue in the governor's race. But I think from the economics perspective, from prices, crime, border, et cetera, I think it's really going to be two very different messages coming from each of the campaigns. And I really think that what people of Florida want to know is are we going to keep our economy growing here? Are we going to be doing the things that keep prices low and make Florida affordable? And I think that's really what's going to, I think, be on voters' minds in November.
Well, Ron, let me ask you on the flip side of that, do you believe that those will be the issues that will make or break this race for the challenger? Does the cultural issue play into this at all?
Well, I think this Governor DeSantis seems to be all about cultural issues, just these emotional things that try to pull at people's heartstrings in a very negative way and try to tear them apart. Very serious, down kind of issues that really make people feel bad about themselves and other things. I think people want a more optimistic view. The Supreme Court is the one that created the issue with Roe versus Wade, and I think people want privacy rights restored. And it's not just about abortion, it's about a lot of other things. These are traditional Republican issues which the Republicans have now abandoned, and Democrats are taking them up, whether it's a woman's right to choose or any other kind of privacy issues. These are things that people care about and want to be left alone when it comes to that. And yes, they want good health care and education, and that's what Democrats and Governor Crist will have to offer.
Well, as we said earlier, it is an interesting race. Two governors, one past, one present, a meeting in November. Let the general election campaign begin. Our thanks to Adam and Ron again, our exclusive political analysts, for their take tonight. Gentlemen, see you soon.
This daughter of a maid and a janitor who is not supposed to be standing here tonight.
That was Congresswoman Val Demings, teary-eyed at times as she just clinched the Democratic primary for Senate. She will face off against incumbent Senator Marco Rubio in the general election. Floridians also weighing in on who else they want seated right there in the U.S. Capitol. Results for the congressional primary contests are coming in. And one race we're closely watching is a bit of a rematch. Our Tiffany Kenny is live in our Breaking News Center with those results. Tiff?
Felicia, in the congressional races, this is how you voted South Florida. Let's take a look. We're going to start with that rematch that Felicia just mentioned. We have a winner in the District 20 race, which covers parts of Palm Beach and Broward counties. Congresswoman Sheila Sherfilis McCormick again faced former Broward Mayor Dale Holness. She defeated Holness by 5 votes in a special primary for this same seat last November, and tonight she wins again. In House District 21, which covers Martin, St. Lucie, and parts of Palm Beach County, Congressman Brian Mast is the winner. He faced competition from 3 others, and he will now face Democrat Karina Robinson in the general election. In District 22, 5 Republicans campaigning for that congressional seat currently being held by U.S. Representative Lois Frankel, and it has been a close race all night between financial advisor Deborah Ademi and businessman Dan Franzese. The race has not been called yet, as just 143 votes separate the two candidates right now. Frankel does not have a Democratic primary opponent. Now let's move to the U.S. House District 23 seat covering Boca Raton, Deerfield, and parts of Broward. After 6 terms, Democratic Congressman Ted Deutsch is leaving Congress to become the chief executive officer of the American Jewish Committee, and Republicans are hoping to eventually flip this Democratic seat in November. On the Republican side, 7 candidates seeking to win the party's nomination, and taking home the win tonight is Joe Budd, founder of Club 45, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting former President Donald Trump. A long list of Democratic candidates also vying for the seat. The former director of Florida's emergency management, Jared Moskowitz, is your winner in this Democratic primary. And in District 8, which covers Indian River County, 2 Democratic candidates squared off, and your winner is Joanne Terry, who will face incumbent U.S. Representative Bill Posey in November. We'll keep checking on that District 22 race, and we'll let you know as soon as a winner is called. Flea?
All right, Tiff, thank you. And we are covering the Treasure Coast this election night. Here's a look at the latest results in the primary race for mayor of Port St. Lucie. Incumbent Shannon Martin has won with more than 21,000 votes. She was just elected mayor last September, so this will be her first full term as mayor. And the fate of Martin County School Board's millage rate now in the hands of the voters.
It impacts the school district's funding through property taxes to pay for various resources, including teacher salaries and security in schools. Our reporter Ari Height joins us live from Martin County with more on those results coming in tonight. Ari?
Big sigh of relief, guys, here for the folks at the Martin County School District. They've been saying all along they need this money to be able to operate the way they want to, and now they know they have that money for the next 4 years. Let's recap really quickly how it is that we got here. Back in 2018, voters approved a $1.5 million property tax increase that money to go to the school district, but that tax was set to expire this year, so voters had to decide if they wanted to renew it. In the end, it wasn't even close. The Martin County millage increase passed by a 2-to-1 margin.
It's kind of encouraging to know that people really do not just value education, but kind of understand what we're doing, trust what we're doing as a board, and appreciate what we're doing as a board.
And Robert says in the first year they expect that millage increase to raise about $13 million for the districts. She says that money is going to go to some very vital things like teacher salary and school security. Reporting live in Stewart, Ari Height, WPBF 25 News.
Ari, thank you for that. Education is center stage this primary season.
School board races hitting ballots from the Palm Beaches to the Treasure Coast. In Martin County, voters had a say in who will fill 2 school board seats. Jennifer Russell clinches the District 3 seat. And this next race for the District 4 seat, this one was a nail-biter tonight, but Amy Pritchett wins by just 1% of the vote. Well, 2 races for the Palm Beach County School Board have been decided tonight, while 2 others will be decided in the general election in November.
Jade Jarvis live outside school district headquarters in Palm Beach County and West Palm Beach with more on the results tonight. Jade.
Well, Todd and Felicia, the votes are in and the Palm Beach County School Board looks like it's staying status quo for now. But first, let's give you a reminder of how these nonpartisan elections work. If none of the candidates running gets more than 50% of the vote, the top 2 in each race will face off during the general election, which is on November 8th this year. In District 3, incumbent Karen Brill will keep her seat, getting far more than the 50% required. And in District 4, incumbent Erica Whitfield will also keep her seat with nearly 70% of the vote there. In District 6, incumbent Marsha Andrews got the most votes, but she failed to meet that 50% threshold, so she'll face off with the second top vote getter, Jennifer Showalter, in November. The District 7 race didn't have an incumbent running. Both Edwin Ferguson and Corey Michael Smith will face off in the general election since no one reached 50% in that race either. Now, overall, 14 candidates were in the running for those open seats this year. The winners' new terms will start on November 15th. Live in West Palm Beach, Jade Jarvis, WPBF 25 News.